I never figured I'd cheat death twice in one godforsaken day. But there I was, thunder roaring in my ears, like the devil's own artillery. Bullets whistling past my head as I spurred my horse through the smoke-choked valleys of Tennessee. It was spring of 1866. The war had sputtered out like a dying fire. But the embers still burned hot for men like me, Union boys, who'd fought too hard and lost too much. The ambush came out of nowhere, a gang of Confederate stragglers, bitter as bile, hollering curses as they fired from the tree line. My revolver bucked in my hand, smoke curling from the barrel as I dropped one of them, his body crumpling like a sack of flour. Ride, damn you, I growled to my horse, the beast's flanks heaving under me as we tore through the underbrush, branches whipping my face like angry ghosts. My name's Jack Harlan, and if you'd asked me before the war what bravery looked like, I'd have spun you a yarn about charging into battle with a grin. But that day, bravery was just surviving. The land around me was a graveyard of what used to be, fields torn up by cannon fire, farmhouses gutted and left to rot, the sweet scent of blooming dogwoods, mocking the stink of gunpowder that clung to everything. I'd breathed that acrid air for 4 long years. Seen brothers in arms blown to pieces at Gettysburg, their faces frozen in eternal surprise. The guilt, it was a weight heavier than any pack, whispering in my ear that I should have been the one left behind, not them. Why me? Why did I walk away when they didn't? Those questions chased me westward, gnawing at my soul like a coyote on a bone. I pushed on, the sun dipping low, painting the horizon in blood-red streaks that matched the stains on my uniform. My family's old homestead was just over the next resort, what was left of it. I'd dreamed of coming home a hero, Ma waiting with apple pie and Pa clapping me on the back. But dreams die hard in wartime. As I crested the hill, my heart sank like a stone in a river. The house was gone, nothing but charred timbers, skeletal against the sky. Weeds choking the fields where we'd once planted corn. Raiders, probably rebels or Yankees, didn't matter which, they'd taken everything. The livestock, the tools, even the damn family Bible from the mantle. I dismounted, knees buckling as I knelt in the dirt, fingers sifting through ashes. This ain't home anymore, I muttered to the wind, tears stinging my eyes that I wouldn't let fall. Not here, not now. A man like me couldn't afford weakness. That night, under a blanket of stars that felt mocking in their indifference, I made my choice. East held nothing but ghosts and graves. West, that was the promised land, or so the tales went in tamed frontiers beyond the Rockies, where a man could start fresh, carve out a life without the shadow of war dogging his heels. Heart heavy as lead, hope flickering like a candle in a gale, I saddled up at dawn and pointed my horse toward the setting sun. Maybe out there, in the wild vastness, I'd find peace, or at least a reason to keep drawing breath. 2 days in, the trail turned rougher, the air cooler as I skirted the edge of a dense thicket. The sun was sinking fast, casting long, eerie shadows that danced like specters across the ground. I made camp in a small clearing, unsaddling my horse, Old Rusty, a faithful bay who'd carried me through hell, and built a fire from dry twigs. The flames crackled to life, pushing back the encroaching dark, but they couldn't chase away the chill in my bones. I chewed on jerky, staring into the fire, memories flooding back unbidden. The thunder of cannons, the screams of the dying, the way blood turned mud into a slick nightmare. Was this all there was? A life of running. The peace shattered with a guttural snarl that raised the hairs on my neck. I froze, hand instinctively dropping to my pistol. From the shadows, eyes glowed like hot coals. A pack of wolves, 5 or 6, circling the camp with low growls that vibrated through the air. Rusty whinnied, stamping his hooves, his eyes wide with terror. Easy, boy, I whispered, rising slow, my heart pounding like a war drum. The leader, a big gray brute with scars across its muzzle, bared fangs that gleamed in the firelight. They smelled blood, or maybe just desperation. I drew my revolver, thumbing back the hammer. Back off, I growled, voice steady despite the fear coiling in my gut. One wrong move, and they'd be on me. The pack inched closer, testing. I fired a shot into the dirt at their feet, the crack exploding through the night like thunder. Dirt sprayed, and they scattered with yips and snarls, vanishing into the black. But not before the leader locked eyes with me, a promise of return in that yellow glare. I exhaled sharply, holstered my gun, and went to Rusty, stroking his mane to calm us both. It's all right, fella, we're all right. But deep down, I knew the wild didn't forgive easy. Turning back, not an option. The West called, merciless as it was. Days blurred into a grind of pushing through tangled woods. The silence a double-edged blade. Time to think. But it drained a man dry. Fatigue clawed at me. Supplies dwindling. Sleep a luxury stolen in fits. I thought of Sarah, my sweetheart back home. Her letters promising forever, until one came stained with tears, saying she'd married another while I was off fighting. The ache of that betrayal mixed with the war's scars, leaving me hollow. What was I even chasing out here? Redemption? Love? Or just oblivion? Then disaster struck like a lightning bolt. Rusty hit a hidden root, bucking wild as his leg twisted with a sickening snap. I flew from the saddle, slamming into the earth hard enough to knock the wind from my lungs. Pain exploded in my leg, white-hot and unrelenting. I gasped, rolling onto my back, stars swimming in my vision. Damn it all, I groaned. Sitting up to assess, my ankle throbbed, swollen already, and Rusty limped pitifully, favoring his front leg. We were done for easy pickings for whatever lurked in these woods. I dragged myself to a stump, sweat beading on my brow, cursing my luck. That's when I sensed her eyes on me from the shadows. I reached for my gun, but pain slowed me. She stepped out, a woman in worn buckskins, dark hair braided down her back, her face etched with the kind of strength born from suffering. Sioux, by the look of her, resilient as the land itself. She raised a hand, palm out. Peace, I can help with that leg. I eyed her warily, hands still near my holster. Trust didn't come easy after the war. Too many betrayals, too many faces hiding knives. But the pain was a fire, and she had a quiet authority that cut through my defenses. Who are you? I rasped. Kira, she said simply, kneeling without waiting for permission. Her touch was firm yet gentle as she probed my ankle, sending jolts through me. Severe sprain. Rest it, or you'll limp forever. I winced but nodded. Jack Harlan. Obliged. Up close, her eyes were deep pools, holding stories of loss that mirrored my own. What had she endured? A raid on her village, maybe flames and screams that stole her kin, leaving her to forge a path alone in this harsh world. I didn't ask. Some pains you recognize without words. She glanced at Rusty, shaking her head. Course, won't make it. Legs shattered. The words hit like a gut punch. Rusty had been my companion, my last tie to the east. Reluctantly, I unsaddled him, stroking his nose one last time. Go on, boy. Be free. He hobbled off into the trees, and I felt a piece of me go with him. Bound by necessity, we set out on foot. Kira leading with sure steps honed from a youth in these trails. The forest whispered around us, leaves rustling like secrets. Silence stretched, thick and uneasy. But I broke it first. You handle yourself like you've danced with death before. She glanced back, a flicker of something in her eyes. Haven't we all? But she didn't elaborate, and I didn't push. Not yet. As we neared a rushing stream, the air hummed with tension, the water's roar foreshadowing trouble. Kira paused, scanning the banks, waters high, careful. Before we could cross, a distant rumble grew into a roar, a flash flood, barreling down like Judgment Day. Waters surged, brown and furious, sweeping away our gear in an instant. Hold on, I yelled, grabbing for a rock as the current yanked at my legs. Kira slipped, her cry piercing the chaos. I lunged, pain be damned, snagging her arm and hauling her to me. We clung together, soaked and trembling, the flood's rage pounding around us. When it receded, we collapsed on the bank, gasping. You saved me, she whispered, her hand lingering on my arm, a spark jumping between us that had nothing to do with the cold. Just returning the favor, I muttered, but my heart raced for reasons beyond survival. Up close, shivering by the fire we built to dry, vulnerabilities cracked open. She shared fragments, her village burned by settlers, kin slaughtered, leaving her adrift. I echoed with war tales the brothers lost, the emptiness inside. Our pains intertwined, pulling us closer under the emerging stars, a fragile bond forming in the wild's embrace. But as the fire died, doubt crept in. Could a man like me, scarred by war and prejudice, find something real with her? The West was full of folks who'd shoot first at our kind of pairing. Yet in her eyes, I saw a mirror to my soul, and damn if it didn't stir a longing I'd thought dead. Little did I know, the real storm was just brewing. The narrow gorge loomed ahead like the jaws of some ancient beast, its steep walls rising sheer and unforgiving, carved by centuries of wind and water into a treacherous funnel. Kira's steps slowed, her sharp eyes scanning the ridges above, where shadows clung like secrets waiting to be spilled. Bandits love these traps, she murmured, her voice low and laced with the kind of caution that came from hard-learned lessons. I felt it too, a prickle at the back of my neck, the air thickening with unspoken menace. We'd been walking for hours since the flood, our clothes still damp, our bodies aching from the ordeal. But that bond we'd forged in the water's fury kept us moving. Yet here, in this choke point, doubt crept in. Was this the West's way of testing us, or just fate's cruel joke? I adjusted my grip on the crude crutch, my ankle protesting with every step, but I wouldn't show weakness. Not to her. Kira had become more than a guide. She was a spark in the darkness of my soul, stirring feelings I'd buried deep after Sarah's betrayal. But love, in this lawless land, where a white man and a Sioux woman together drew stares sharper than knives, it was a fool's dream, and I was no stranger to folly. Stay close, I said, my hand brushing hers. Accidentally, or was it? She didn't pull away, and that small touch sent a warmth through me that had nothing to do with the sun beating down. We pressed on, the path narrowing until the walls seemed to close in, echoing our footfalls like mocking laughter. Then it came the crack of rifles from above, sharp as thunderclaps, bullets kicking up dirt at our feet. Surrender your goods, strangers. A voice bellowed, rough and laced with greed. I looked up to see them. 5 outlaws perched on the ridge, rifles trained. Their leader, a hulking brute with a scar twisting his grin into something demonic. His eyes gleamed with the promise of no mercy. The kind of man who'd rob a grave if it held a nickel. My blood ran hot, instincts from the war kicking in like an old habit. I drew my revolver first, the motion fluid despite the pain, rolling behind a boulder as bullets whizzed past. Splintering rock. Get down, I shouted to Kira, firing back with precision, manly, unflinching, each shot a testament to the soldier I'd been. One outlaw jerked, clutching his shoulder, tumbling down the slope in a haze of smoke and grit, his body hitting the ground with a thud that echoed my resolve. The air filled with the acrid bite of gunpowder, a scent that held me back to battlefields I'd tried to forget. Kira didn't cower. She moved like a shadow, dodging fire with an agility that stole my breath. She flanked them, her blade flashing in the sunlight as she scaled a low outcrop, striking swift and sure. One outlaw turned too late, her knife finding his arm, disarming him in a chaotic dance of lead and steel. She was a force, wild and graceful, turning the tide as another foe yelped and retreated. The outlaws cursed, their formation breaking under our counterattack. Bloodied and outmatched, the survivors scrambled away, vanishing over the ridge like rats fleeing a flood, leaving only echoes and the sting of near death. We stood there, breathless, the gorge silent once more, save for our ragged breathing. Kira sheathed her blade, her chest heaving, eyes meeting mine with a softness that cut through the adrenaline. "You're a hell of a shot, Jack Harlan," she said, a hint of a smile playing on her lips, her voice warm like the first rays after a storm. I grinned, masking the surge of affection swelling in my chest. "And you're a whirlwind, with that knife. We'd make a fine team in any scrape." The words hung between us, heavy with unspoken promise. But as we gathered our scattered gear, I couldn't shake the feeling that this ambush was no random hit. Something in the leader's eyes felt personal, like he'd been waiting for me, or for her. The thought gnawed, planting seeds of doubt that I'd have to uproot later. We pushed out of the gorge as the sun dipped lower, finding a gentle bend in a nearby river where the water murmured soothingly over smooth stones. We made camp there, the rush of the current a balm to our frayed nerves. I built a fire while Kira tended our minor wound scrapes from rocks, a graze on my arm from a stray bullet. The air thickened with unspoken tension, the kind that builds when two souls brush too close. As flames flickered, casting dancing shadows on her face, she opened up, her voice soft against the night's hush. "My people, the Sioux, we had a world once, vast as the plains, tied to the land like roots to earth. But settlers came, with fire and false promises, shattering it all." Her eyes glistened, reflecting the fire's glow, and I saw the depth of her loss. A village raided, kin slain in the night, leaving her to wander alone, forging strength from sorrow. It mirrored my own rootless drift, the war that stole my brothers, the homestead burned, the sweetheart who turned her back. But worse, the societal scorn waiting for bonds like ours, whispers of savage and traitor, prejudices as rigid as iron bars. "Ain't no place for folks like us in this world," I mused, staring into the flames, the words tasting bitter. The West was supposed to be free, but chains of judgment followed everywhere. Kira's gaze challenged mine, fierce and unyielding. "Maybe we make our own place, Jack. Defy the whispers, build something stronger than their hate." Her words sparked hope amid the prejudice, a flame igniting in my chest. Our hands touched across the fire, lingering, and in that moment, I felt the pull, a deepening connection, raw and real, promising healing if we dared grasp it. But the night wasn't done with us. As stars wheeled overhead, a distant rumble grew into a roar, treacherous thunderstorm unleashing hell from the skies. Hail pelted like bullets, winds howling fierce enough to uproot trees, threatening to bury us in mudslides that churned the earth into a deadly slurry. Into the cave, I yelled over the gale, grabbing Kira's arm as we scrambled for a shallow overhang in the riverbank. The world dissolving into chaos.